So now that I've established the fact that these are advanced beings, very sophisticated, very knowledgeable, way more advanced than us. I'm talking about 1,000,000+ years more advanced. The master architects. Stone masonry originated with Thoth the Atlantean and the builders that came from other places. It didn't originate here on this planet. This has been talked about in many, many ancient texts. Sometimes people want to doubt some of the things that I say, but they haven't taken the time like I have to go through these texts. It's been now 20 years of research just in text alone, and over 1,000 books later. And in the more recent last 7 years, just going through hundreds and hundreds of different tablets and scrolls and traveling around the planet and talking to locals, talking to homegrown archaeologists, getting the insights, getting the inside information, you come to realize that it was a very, very incredible past on this planet, and not only on this planet, in our solar system itself. So Thoth says he says to himself, I've got to leave something behind that people in the future, when they start to become more advanced consciously and technologically, can get their hands on and digest and begin to utilize this in their life to take the mankind back to the golden age. Because we go through these cycles, these yugas, and right now we're what I believe is the Tetra Yuga. Some people want to say that we're in the Bronze Age, but I really don't believe that. I really believe at this point here, after reading this and studying the tablets, we're more on the swing up side, going back towards the golden age again. And we here, all of us, are really the pioneers of allowing this to happen to mankind, to get back into this golden age where, for 20, 30,000 years, the world's at peace, lifespans are extended. This stuff is written in the Bible and many other things as well, many other ancient texts. These exact phrases, they're all copied from the Emerald Tablets, where man's lifespan is extended, or our level of consciousness is raised to a very high level. We are very spiritual people. We're living in full agreement with each other in terms of how we treat each other, how we love each other. Ultimate, unconditional love is the main thing that's happening on this planet, and also throughout our soul. And everywhere we go, everywhere we touch, we're basically putting out unconditional love. And we're living in synchronicity with nature. We're not destroying the planet. We're living in synchronicity with the planet. All these things we talked about in there, and how to create portals and everything else. So the Hermetica is the key bit of information to help us understand not only how to get there, but to take a journey to inner space before we go to outer space. Because in order to make that advance, in order to jump to the next level as a civilization and as a spiritual person, you have to take a journey to inner space first. And that's what the Hermetic principles are really all about. Hermes Trismegistus, master of all arts and sciences, perfect in all crafts, ruler of the three worlds, scribe of the gods, and keeper of the book of life. Thoth Hermes Trismegistus, the 3 times the greatest, the first intelligencer, was regarded by the ancient Egyptians as the embodiment of the universal mind. While in all probability there's actually existed a great sage and educated by the name Hermes, it is impossible to extricate the historical man from the massive legendary accounts which attempt to identify him with the cosmic principle of thought. So the word thought is where you get Thoth. The word thought came from Thoth. And there's a new slang out here with the younger kids about THOT, thought. So they're taking something that's really powerful, a powerful name, a name that has real true history and everything behind it, and it have turned it into a street term that means, slut and all this other kind of crazy stuff. This is how they always trick us. They always get us to use more powerful things to put negative consciousness behind it, so it has no power in your life. But the true reality is Thoth, some people say Thoth, but thought comes from Thoth. That's where the word comes from. So that was that quote came from Manly Q. Hall, The Secret Teachings of All Ages, amazing book. Creation according to Hermes. In the beginning, Noahs, which really Noahs is another word for God, created the second Noahs. You're going to find that these Noahs are spheres. Who becomes a craftsman and creates the world. Noahs too creates 7 powers, and the 7 spheres around what will become the earth. The spheres have control over what will be earth. They control what we know as destiny. The 7 spheres are the moon, the sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Here is the beginning of astrology. Noahs too sets the spheres in motion, and life on earth begins. And these spheres, you've probably seen them before in the logo for Portal to Ascension. In the necklace that I normally have on, which I just took off just a little while ago, you see me wear it a lot, the flower of life. Now it starts with the seed, okay? So first you have the seed of life, And in the seed of life, you have these circles. You have 6 circles that surround a 7th circle, which create these intersections. And these intersections here, every single one of those intersections is called a vesicle piscis. And the vesicle piscis is actually the womb of creation. So everything is coming out of this formation here. This seed is literally in you, through you, and out of you. It's all around you at all times. Every Planck unit of space-time that exists contains this formation inside of it. And if you take a cross-section of your DNA, this is the flower of life, and it holds the golden ratio. So it's even inside your DNA. Every aspect of you, every aspect of everything that exists in this entire third dimension emanates, and I mean literally emanates, from this particular shape and form. This is where life comes from, guys. There was a famous scientist that took a flask, flask from a laboratory, and he sterilized it with heat. Then he vacuumed it and sealed it. So it's a sealed, sterilized flask. Should be no way anything can get inside this flask, right? He leaves it sit for a couple days. He comes back, and then he goes ahead and looks at it under an electron microscope. Guess what happened, guys? Life forms. Microscopic life forms fully formed inside the flask. Can't see with the naked eye. Under an electron microscope, you can see these formations of different life forms that came to be out of nowhere. How can that be? Where did they come from? How do we have so many millions of different species on this planet? As many are as being extinct, you would think we'd be running out of animals. But every single year, more species actually appear. And they're everywhere. That's because life is consistently emanating directly through the vesicle piscis nonstop. So here we have, you see what we have here even through biology. You can see the shape form as we build out the seed of life all the way into a flower of life. You can see how, if you look from the left, my left to the right, as the formation of cells and biological entity, we literally, how this energy field literally creates avatar bodies. Your body is an avatar body, okay? There's 2 parts to you. You have the avatar body, and then you have your light being, which has synchronized with this avatar body, and your light being actually animates it. Without the light being, your light being inside this avatar wouldn't even move. It wouldn't even get up, it wouldn't talk, it wouldn't do anything. It just lay there completely unanimated. You animate the light avatar. But this is the instructions here for the energy field that literally builds your avatar body, and all biological organisms that exist in the third dimension are built this way. It's a very, very simple process, very easy to understand, but very rarely taught. But this is what Thoth is talking about in terms of the process used to not only build planets, but also even include building people, as above, so below. This is where you get that from. So the flower of life is ancient. It's not something new. It's not something that they like I said, quote unquote, New Agers came up with. This is deep antiquity. This is the Osirian temple at Abydos. I've been there before. There's pictures of me on my account walking through this area. And what's amazing about this at Temple of Abydos, it's right behind the Osirian, it's right behind the Abydos temple. The Osirian temple is lower, deeper in the ground. Why? Because the deeper you go, the more ancient you go. As more sand covers up, they build more temples on top of temples to keep the site sacred. So the Abydos was built on top of most of the Osirian, but part of it was uncovered. But the most amazing thing is this column that's there with this atomically engraved image of the flower of life in the column. This is about 30, 40,000 years old. This isn't even like 2 or 3,000 or 5. No, this is deep, deep antiquity. They already knew that this was what I call the face of God, because all life emanates from this flower of life, all energy fields. Inside this flower of life is a 64-grid tetrahedron. Inside that 64-grid tetrahedron, it creates something called the vector equilibrium. Inside the vector equilibrium, you can access unlimited energy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It never runs out, it never expires. That's the secret to free energy, accessing that field. It's an electromagnetic wave with a specific frequency, which is one of the things that we're working on developing at First Class Space, the ability to use a special photonic receptor that only can absorb that electromagnetic energy and convert that into usable power. So those are some of the things that we're working on. In the creation myth, we are introduced to astrology and the influence of planets upon man, from which man is expected to rise above. We have dualism. a God of the heavens and one who created earth. We have the idea of man as a son or part of God. We have man being given the power of creation, where you create your own reality. The idea that man has a dual nature is one in heaven, non-material, and the soul spirit, which is one physical in the world of matter, the body, which we talked about just a minute ago, the avatar, and the fall of leaving heaven to be with nature. This is one of the biggest mysteries that have gone on with information that was copied into the modern day religious books about fallen angels. It has nothing to do with Anunnakis, and it has nothing to do with these evil spirits that decided to turn against God and all this. It has to do with the collective consciousness deciding at one point that it would, before any entities existed, that it would divide itself into multi-Googles of entities. Google is the number, it's not just the name, it's an actual number. It's way bigger than trillion. And I believe there are Googles of entities inside this universe. It would divide itself into Googles of entities so that they can experience life subjectively in the third dimension. And in the Emerald Tablets, Thoth talks about the fact that some of these some of these energetic beings from the collective consciousness decide to create avatar bodies to go experience life, what it would be like in the third dimension, to walk around, smell the flowers, live in this particular realm and understand it better. Why? Because consciousness always wants to send back information to the source. It's as above, so below. How does your brain work? Your brain is encased in complete darkness. It doesn't know anything going on outside of your head at all. It knows nothing. Your brain knows nothing. But what it does have, it has friends. Sight, hearing, seeing, smell, touch, all your senses. So the brain says to your sensory friends, his sensory friends, it says, hey guys, I don't know what's going on out there. Go out there and collect me some information. So the friends go, okay, we got you. So the friends go out. They start collecting information, but they don't know what themselves what they're collecting. They're just collecting literal zeros and ones, bits of data. They don't know what they've collected, but they collect this information and they bring it back to the brain, which is encased in complete darkness. The brain, as a way of figuring it all out, understands what the information is, and then the brain says, okay, great. Now I'm going to project a hologram as to what's going on outside, and then you navigate through that hologram through a projection from your mind. That's all it is. And so consciousness is the same exact thing. The collective consciousness is this giant consciousness energy source, somewhere probably outside of this dimension, that has sent itself in here and split itself into pieces to collect information and to learn what it's like to be a third dimensional entity of being. And it now takes all that information that you lived your entire life, transmitting that information directly back to source. And it's collecting it as above, so below. It will not change. So let's talk a little bit about the laws. Move this up here a little bit. All things in all universes move according to law, and the law which regulates the movement of the planets is no more immutable than the law which regulates the material expressions of man. One of the greatest of all cosmic laws is that which is responsible for the formation of man as a material being. The great aim of the mystery schools of all ages has been to reveal the workings of which law will connect man the material and man the spiritual. The connecting link between the material man and the spiritual man is the intellectual man. For the mind partakes of both the material and immaterial qualities. The aspirant for higher knowledge must develop the intellectual side of his nature, and so strengthen his will that it will be able to concentrate all powers of his being on and in the plane he desires. This is how you create your reality. The great search for light, life, and love only begins on the material plane. Carried to its ultimate and final goal is complete oneness with the universal consciousness. The foundation in this material is the first step. Then comes the higher goal of spiritual attainment. In the following pages, I will give the interpretation of the Emerald Tablets and their secret and the hidden esoteric messages. Concealed in the words of Thoth are many meanings that do not appear on the surface. Light of knowledge brought to bear upon the tablets will open many new fields of thought. Read and be wise, but only if the light of your own consciousness awakens the deep-seated understanding, which is the inherent quality of the soul. That's directly from my book, Companion of the Emerald Tablets. So now we're going to get into this, guys. Let's talk a little bit about the universe runs on natural law. So the general principles of natural law, we're talking about 7 principles that we're going to touch on a little bit here today. Make sure I'm going on time here. Okay, we're good. The first principle is the principle of mentalism. This is where It's first because it's one of the most important ones in my personal opinion. And this is where a lot of people fall short in understanding or figuring out how to create their own reality and how things happen and how things manifest and how the future unfolds and why they're in situations that they're in. We're going to cover the principle of correspondence, the principle of vibration, the principle of polarity, rhythm, the cause and effect, which is one of my favorite as well, and then the principle of gender. Very powerful quote here from the Kabbalion. The principles of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possesses the magic key, before whose touch all the doors of the temple will fly open. Where's the temple? This is your temple, guys. Not a building out here in the street, not this place you go to with a gigantic image on top of it that you think represents something that happened in the past. The temple is right here, right between your eyes. This is your temple. This is what this is referencing. It's not referencing a physical building where you go and put money in a plate. It's referencing where you put knowledge into your brain.